Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man wala. Amma ba'du. So here we have some books that I picked up from al-Makhtootaat, the Center for Manuscripts here in Kuwait. I made a video showing some of the books in the library there that I said I visited that. I made this video a while ago. And here I'm just going to share some of the books that I picked up. These top books are books which were free on a WhatsApp group that I belong to here in Kuwait. One of the brothers sent out a message saying these books are being given away at al-Makhtootaat and sent the location. And so I went there and picked up some books, and then there were some other books that were for sale, and I'll tell you about those as well, inshallah ta'ala. So from the first books that we have that's free, فائدة من در العلامة الشيخ محمد بن صالح العثيمين, written by Lنواف ibn Mطيع, or gathered by him rather. This is 100 faidas or benefits taken from the pearls of the Allamah Sheikh Muhammad ibn Salih al-Uthaymeen. Paperback book. Of course, it's going to be a little over 100 pages due to 100 faidas. So 116 pages, as we can see, white paper, but it's nice print, 2-color. Every page basically a different faida from the works of Sheikh al-Uthaymeen. Husn al-Ibadah, aham min kathrat al-Ibadah. So here he says in Bulugh al-Maram, the third juz, page 534, that a good worship, a worship which is husn al-Ibadah, a worship which is good, a worship which has concentration and done, not hastily, and done, with a purpose and in a good manner, is better than a lot of ibadah. Ahammu, or is more important than kathratul ibadah, a whole lot of ibadah, but it's not done with purpose and with, concentration and so on. So this is a nice benefit, mashallah. Anyway, this took some work because this brother had to read Sheikh al-Uthaymeen's books, and he drew out and, kept fawaid, benefits from it. So that's a nice book, mashallah, something easy to read when waiting online. Also something, inshallah ta'ala, you can make TikToks or YouTube shorts with it, which is one of my plans, inshallah. عذاب, الدنيا, the punishment in the dunya. This is by Ahmed Yaqub Yusuf Baaqir. And this is just a short book talking about the punishment in the hereafter. The fact that the sunnah of Allah regarding trials and tests, Jannah is the place of happiness, is the only place of happiness, meaning this life is not going to be full of joy and this and that. Rather, there's going to be trials and hardships, because Jannah is the only true place of happiness. لا تقع المصائب إلا بإذن الله, then calamities don't happen except with the permission of Allah. شتان بين الاثنين, the two differences or distances between two things, like the vast difference between them. أسباب وقوع العذاب والبلاء في الدنيا, the reasons for punishment and tests happening in this life. These are just little short talks that could be given. Khutbahs could be based off this book, as well as maybe little talks after Fajr or after Isha, something short and benefit, something brief. The next book, these were all free books that were being given away. Al-Wajizz fi Sharh Asma'u الحسنى. So basically the summary of the explanation of Allah's most beautiful names. I just stuck this in there and it happened to be on al-Basir. So for example, we see قال الله Ta'ala, they bring an ayat or a hadith which shows the name of Allah. Wallahu yaqdi bil haqq, and Allah judges with truth. Walladhi yad'una min dunihi la yaqduna bi shay, and those who are called on other than Allah, other than Him, then they don't judge or in anything. Inna Allaha huwa sami al-basir. Indeed, Allah, He is the hearing and the seeing, or all seeing. Al-Basir, the Basir, هو الذي أحاط بصره بجميع مبصرات في الأقطار الأرض والسماوات. That al-Basir, he is the all-seeing, the one who his basar, his vision, or his seeing, encompasses all of what can be seen in the different places of the earth, in the different corners of the earth and the heavens. Yara wa yubsir ma tahta al-aradin as-saba kama yubsiru ma fawqa as-samawat as-saba. He sees what is below the seven earths just as he sees what is above the seven heavens. Basirun bi amal al-ibad. He is all seeing of the actions of the worshippers. La yakhfa alayhi minha shay. Nothing is hidden from him regarding them. فعلى العبد أن يراقب الله في أفعاله وأحواله وحركاته وسكناته. Then it is upon the worshipper, it is an obligation upon the worshipper to pay attention to Allah, to know that Allah is looking at him and his actions, to do this and realize this, that Allah is watching him in his actions and in his conditions, in his movements, in his being still. وَأَنْ يَسْتَحْيِي مِنْ نَظْرِ اللَّهِ إِلَيْهِ إِذَا عَصَاهُ, and that he should be shy from Allah looking at him if he is disobeying him. So it brings the meaning of the name, and it gives you a practical application and implementation of using that name in our everyday lives. The next book, and this is something I had to call around and find out about a little bit and do some research. Al-Aqidة al-Hadramiyya. Al-Aqidة al-Hadramiyya from Hadramaut. This person, La'asam ibn Muhammad ibn Salam al-Basunbil al-Hadrami, he wrote in Aqeedah. He's in Yemen, and they decided to print it. And this is a nice brief Aqeedah that could be read upon the people. Of course, it probably won't be read much until it gains some fame, if it ever is to gain some fame. But it is very nice, just as we can see. Basically, 20 pages. Less than that when you count the introductions. So let's see here. The Aqeedah itself starts on page 11. So it's basically 10 pages. But it's nice. A nice Aqeedah. And he's in Yemen. I found out a little bit about him in Hadramaut. Salafi, alhamdulillah. But without it being famous, it's not going to... many people probably won't want to read it, but it is a nice Salafi Aqeedah. The next book, سؤال وجوابه في عقيدة التوحيد. 100 questions and answers regarding the Aqeedah of Tawheed by Abdulaziz ibn Muhammad الشعلان, who is the Mudir al-Maktab al-Ta'awani al-Dawah al-Rashad, the head of the Office of Cooperation and Dawah and Guidance with Taw'i al-Jaliyat, and for foreigners, basically, Bihayy al-Aziziyya bi Riyadh, in the area of Aziziyya and Riyadh. So this is a book of just 100 questions, and it's fully vowelized with their answers. Udhkur ba'da anwal ibadah, mention some of the types of ibadah. Ma a'adham ma naha Allahu anhu, what is the greatest thing that Allah prevented us from or prohibited us from. Ma as shirk. What are the two types of shirk? And it's just 100 questions and answers. And I think it's something nice, easy to read with your children or at a weekend school, something like that. The next book that I got for free is this Kitab al-Da'awat al-Kabir by al-Bayhaqi. This is basically dhikr and dua, a book of dhikrs and duas by al-Bayhaqi. And paperback, 225 pages. Someone does research into books on dhikr and dua, studying Hisnul Muslim or teaching Hisnul Muslim. This might be of benefit to him. See, it has lots and lots of footnotes. Right? The next book that we have for free was Man Wafaqa Ismuhu Ismu Abi, Man Wafaqa Ismu Kunyatu Abi. So, who his name is the same as his father's name, and his name is Wafaqa Ismu Kunya Abi, and whose name is the same as his father's kunya. And in another book, basically two different people. This one's by al-Azdi. Then here, the same type of thing inside the same book. Man wafaqa kunyatu ismu abi, whoever his name or his kunya is the same as his father's. Mimma la yu'min wuqul khata' fi. That you should not make mistakes in. And basically, it just shows you, for instance, this guy. Let's see here. Dawood ibn Yazid with Dawood Abu Yazid. Dawood ibn Yazid with Dawood Abu Yazid. Right? Dawood ibn al-Haytham with Dawood Abu al-Haytham. Just talks about that in case you get mixed up in some narrators, just for someone who's deep into hadith studies. The next book that was free was Kitab, and this is a hardback book. This is Kitab Bugyat al-Wafid wa Ghunyat al-Qasid, which is upon the madhab of Imam Ahmed, rahimahullah. It's written by Shihab ad-Din ibn Ahmed ibn Yahya ibn Atwa, who was Hanbali, and he died in the year 948, right? This book is hardback, as we said, does not have the bookmark that we like. It is 157 pages, or 158 pages, counting the table of contents. And it's all about the ahkam of Hajj and Umrah, according to the madhab of Imam Ahmed, the ahkam of Hajj and Umrah. Those were the free books that I picked up. And these next books were for sale. But when the secretary saw I was American, heard me and my son speaking in English, and just saw us have a different look, heard that I didn't have a Kuwaiti accent when I spoke Arabic. Then he went and talked to the head of the al-Makhtootaat, which we'll talk about in a second. And he ended up giving me these books for free. So I actually don't know how much they would cost. About 5-6 KD, maybe $20. One thing to go back on this book here, I just looked when I set it to the side. The tahqiq, the checking of this book was done by Walid al-Munisi. Walid al-Munisi, who is in Minnesota, right? So you guys have someone there. And we realize he might have some affiliations which we don't agree with. But everywhere I've been to, the Mashaykh has spoken highly about him. In fact, when we went to Sheikh Abdul Bari ibn Sheikh Hamad al-Ansari and asked him to come to us, he said, just have Sheikh Walid come to you guys. Just have Sheikh Walid, meaning Walid al-Manisi. So, this is there. He's the one that has the Islamic University of Minnesota. Okay, now, this next book, which was for sale, but it was given to me. الإنجاز في ترجمة الإمام عبد العزيز ibn Baz. This is a biography of Sheikh Ibn Baz rahimahullah by Abdurrahman ibn Yusuf ibn Abdurrahman al-Rahmah, who, as far as I could find, he seems kind of young when you look at him. He's African, could be Saudi, probably is Saudi. His family probably lived there in Saudi for a long time, but he's black and he looks young, even still today. Videos that are kind of current of him, he looks very young, but they say he spent a very long time and he was very close to the Sheikh, and he wrote this book in 1419. Let me see. He has a thing here where he wrote it. He wrote this book on the 15th of Safar in the year 1419. So this is why Sheikh Ibn Baz rahimahullah was still alive, because the Sheikh died on the 27th of Muharram in the year 1420, if I'm not mistaken. So about 11 and a half months later, the Sheikh passed away. So this book was written in his lifetime, and since he was close to the Sheikh, he was able to get stuff from him personally as he wrote. And we can see that the book is not a small book. The book is 715 pages in total, counting the table of contents. It's on yellow, it's all black, and it's very nice, very, very nice book. It's about Sheikh Ibn Baz rahimahullah. The first section talks about his name, his lineage, how he grew up, where he grew up, his children, his family, stuff like that. So it talks about his children and everything, right? Which is not much that we hear about the Sheikh. Then we talk about his sifat awsaf al-khalqiyya, meaning his what he looked like, what are his characteristics, his not his character, but his characteristics, his height, his clothes, his fasahatihi, his eloquence, his strong memory, his farasa, his ability to see in and see things and understand things as they are. Then the next we have his sifat al-khuluqiyya, his characteristics, basically his zuhud, his charity, his trust, his humility, right? His expansive chest, his generosity. Then his hayatuhu ilmiya, his studies, basically. Where did he study and with who, right? Then we have mu'alafatihi wa atharuhu al-ilmiya, his writings. Namadaj mu'alafatihi. So some examples of his writings and his fatawa and his letters that he wrote people and his advices that he gave. These are about books of Aqeedah and some of his writings, as we said. Then we have Maktabatihi. Now this one I had to go and stop and look at, not just read the introduction and find out about the book for you guys, but to actually read some sections of it. And the Maktaba was one of them. And I wanted to see, because we all seen Sheikh Uthaymin's Maktaba and how it was very simple. He had a nice amount of books, but it was actually small for a talib al-ilm, much less a sheikh. And so I wanted to see what was Bin Baz's, because we know Bin Baz was blind, and he was not born blind, but he became blind when his vision became bad when he was 16 or so, and then I think by the time he was 19, 20, 21, he was completely blind. So what kind of mektaba did he have? What kind of mektaba did he have being a blind person? They said he had a huge library. They say his library was very huge, even to the point where he had someone who was in charge of the library. And that person would read to him and so on and so forth. So the Sheikh had a nice library, mashallah. Hayatu Amaliya, what is his job? What are the jobs or different positions that he held during his lifetime? Al-Minhaj al-Ilmi wal-Amali. So what do they mean by that? His methodology of knowledge and that, meaning what was his Aqeedah? What was his level regarding hadith? How did he deal with the leaders? the Sheikh in fatwa and research and seeking counsel, and advice from others, his bravery in regarding the truth, right? And then this next section is what people wrote about him, scholars, his peers, and students wrote about him. ابن باز في عيون طلابه وتحقيق صحفي. How is he with the students? How did he behave and interact with the people? Then the next section, poetry about the Sheikh, right? Poetry that people wrote about the Sheikh. Then the next one, different subtle points and different benefits that you can get from his life here, right? And lies that were told about the Sheikh. Words that he used to say often. I'm going to translate this. It's only 2 pages. I'm going to translate this, inshallah, today maybe. Then the 14th section, his gatherings with newspapers and stuff like this. And then lastly, brief biographies that were written about the Sheikh by different people, by Abdul Razak al-Afifi, rahimahullah, al-Tayyib ibn Salam, and a biography that he himself said and had people write down. And the Sheikh Abdul Rahman al-Rahma, he said that he wrote this because most of the biographies that he found regarding the Sheikh were very thin, and that's the case even if you look at Sheikh Abdul Muslim's. His is like 10 pages or something, and here we have 700 and some pages regarding this. This is printed. Who printed this book? Doesn't say. Wallahi, doesn't say. I guess he probably printed it himself or something and gave it out. Alhamdulillah. The ni'mah of the Muslims. This next book, and the last one here, is Hayat al-Albani. Hayat al-Albani wa atharuhu wa thana'u al-ulama alayh. The life of Sheikh al-Albani and his effects on basically society, what did he leave behind, and so on, and the praise of the scholars for him. This is by Muhammad ibn Ibrahim al-Shaybani, and this is the leader, or the mudir, the president, the leader, whatever you want to call him, the one in charge of the al-Makhtootaat. I actually have a small book, probably around 80 pages, which is a summary of these two, that I found in a masjid in New York. And they had about 100 copies of it. And I asked the imam there, could I have one of them? And he said yes. And I was real surprised to find that this is from Kuwait and that it was there, and I had never heard of it or seen it. And then, alhamdulillah, so this is the actual book that it is based on. It's 2 big volumes, and the table of contents goes into both volumes, so you can see, I believe they put it maybe in the first book. No, here it is. So it's a total of, here we can see 914 pages up to the table of contents, and then it has some other pages which are some just copies of his Sheikh al-Albani's handwriting and articles that were written about him and so on. Now we go through these table of contents real quick for people. So this is all about the book and about people of hadith and so on and so forth. Maybe like the reason for writing the book. Then we get into the Sheikh, the life of the Sheikh, right? About him and making hijrah and making da'wah and being in the jamia. Basically his life, the Sheikh in the Sham, right? Then the second one is Rudud, or refutations. And these are different refutations that the Sheikh wrote in his lifetime. Then opinions that he had, different opinions that he had. And then difa' an al-Sheikh, defending the Sheikh from different doubts or lies that were told about him. Hold it up better, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I was holding that down. Then the next section, words that were said about Sheikh al-Albani. What do people say about him? What does Bin Baz say about him? What did al-Albani? What did Zayd Abdulaziz say? Muhammad Ibrahim Shaqra, Muqbil ibn Hadi, Eid al-Abbasi. What did they say about Sheikh al-Albani? Then the next section, the Sheikh and his works with manuscripts, right? And then the works of the Sheikh that are in manuscript form. And you can see the book is just black and white. But if you go here in the beginning, I thought there were more pictures. Maybe it's in the other volume. Anyway, the next section, the works of the Sheikh that are printed. The works of the Sheikh that are printed. Let me see. Did I skip something? Okay, the works of the Sheikh that are printed. And then the works which are just not his written works, but books that he did the takhrij of, right? And so on. So this just talks about the Sheikh and his right and his life, and in 900 some pages. Anyone who loves the Sheikh and who loves knowledge will love this book, inshallah ta'ala. This is what we have from the books from Markaz al-Makhtootaat. Any questions about any particular thing, then you can leave it in the comments below, inshallah ta'ala. And we'll see you next week or next time we come together with some books that I had purchased from the book fair, inshallah.